That would have an effect on your motivation and confidence, wouldn't it? Right? So this is a real problem, and of course, the reason for that problem is the backwash effect. Keita Kikuchi, one of my graduate students, did a study in 2006, and we did another study in 2008, and we looked at the difficulty of entrance exams. And what we found is that there's this terrible backwash effect. If you look at the average difficulty of the reading passages, the English reading passages on entrance exams, they're all below 80%. And so what you see is the high school texts are teaching to the entrance exams. And that's where a lot of this comes from. So this is the vicious cycle, right? So they don't understand the texts, so they read more slowly, they don't enjoy reading, and they don't read much. And it's this horrible negative spiral that goes on for years and years and years until they finally give up. Whereas with extensive reading, you know the drill. It's wonderful because they read and it's at their level, so they can read, and because they can read, their motivation goes up and their confidence goes up, and they read more, and they get more vocabulary, more grammar, and that's how it should be. That's normal, right? This is normal. What we've got is not normal, and that's a big problem. Bill Brabe has a great quote back in Bamford and Day's book. Given the overwhelming evidence for the importance of extensive reading in learning a second language, why isn't everybody doing it? I mean, why aren't we? And the good news is that a growing number of people are doing it, that we are doing it. And I think the people in this room are some of the long-term advocates for extensive reading in Japan. And I think we have made inroads, and there are high schools that are doing fantastic things because they're doing extensive reading. So this is all very good. So where are we? What does that mean? I think what I want to talk about is come back to vocabulary for a moment. What we need, I really do strongly believe that we need students to intentionally study and to master these core, foundational, high-frequency words. It's absolutely essential if we want them to get to the level of independence, if we want them to be able to read without a dictionary and without our help and to interact with those texts, they absolutely need to do that. Spaced repetition flashcards, I didn't talk about that in detail today, but flashcards are a fantastic way to learn words quickly, to learn something about words quickly. They're very, very quick. You can master a lot of knowledge very quickly, especially if it's spaced repetition. This is a very good point about flashcards. The bad point about flashcards, as many of you might know, is they lack context. You can learn word on one side, definition on the other, but what about collocational knowledge? What about what about the context, the multiple occurrences, and seeing the word in different contexts? It's very hard to do with flashcards, but that doesn't mean you throw out the baby with the bathwater. I mean, flashcards do have some very, very wonderful features, and one of which is that you can master a lot of information very quickly. So they're very good for getting that receptive knowledge, at least receptive knowledge of all high-frequency words quickly, and I think that's something we should be doing. In terms of extensive reading is fantastic because when you learn a new word, you're getting all this contextualized information, you're developing real-world knowledge, you're developing grammatical knowledge, you're developing all kinds of knowledge when you're doing extensive reading. But the problem with extensive reading is in terms of vocabulary growth, is it's incidental, right? So you're not directly focusing on the words, and there's a lot of research that shows you need multiple repetitions, somewhere between 10 to 30 meetings with a new word before that word is mastered. So the minus point, the negative point of extensive reading for vocabulary is that the pace of growth is just too slow. And so that's why we need to pull these two things together. I think that's why I think there's this symbiosis. That's why extensive reading and high-frequency vocabulary study are the perfect complement for each other. So what we should be doing is trying to get the students to master those high-frequency words very quickly, at least getting some receptive knowledge, definitional knowledge into their brains for all of the high-frequency words, but at the same time, side by side, doing the extensive reading to extend that knowledge. And to, it's not that extensive reading is all about vocabulary. It's not. There's about 25 other fantastic things that ER does, but it's a very, very good complement to high-frequency vocabulary growth. And what I wanted to do for the last couple of minutes of my presentation is to point out something else, and that is extend how sort of the cutting edge of what we're doing with high-frequency vocabulary learning and extensive reading is now moved into the realm of digital learning. And when you look, I present at conferences in many other countries, just like many of you. And when I go to an ER conference in another country or a vocabulary conference in another country, it always sort of amazes me that the really innovative, cutting-edge stuff is not being done in North America or Europe. It's being done right here. And as over the years, I've worked on various projects myself, and many of the people in this room have worked on other projects, and I'm sort of amazed. The other day, I was trying to pull together some software to show you, and oops, wrong one. And I realized that almost all of the sort of interesting, innovative softwares that we're talking about, in one way or another, were developed by linguists right here in Japan, and a couple of them who are sitting in this room. And so what I'd like to do is sort of show you just very briefly some of these tools that you might want to be taking a look at. Some of them are sort of vocabulary focused. The first couple I'll show you are just a very strong focus on high-frequency vocabulary. A couple of them are focused very strongly on digital extensive reading, and a couple of others are now pulling them together, which is where I think the direction we ought to be going in, is trying to pull together extensive reading and vocabulary learning. So, as I said, the new general service list and all of the tools and resources, that's one of the free ones. The iPhone app that I have, that's also another free resources. The Word Engine, which is Guy Seehey, who isn't here today, that's a paid resource, but it's a very good one. One of the nice things that Word Engine does is that really the starting point was on focusing on identifying where students' gaps are in this high-frequency knowledge through the VCheck test, the vocabulary test, and then systematically filling in the knowledge with use of flashcards. So it doesn't have that contextualization, doesn't have the ER side of things, but it really is pretty strongly focused on the high-frequency vocabulary. Mreader.com, Tom has spent his entire adult life over the past 15, 20 years systematically, step by step, trying to figure out how to help us as teachers, all of us who are have ER programs in our schools where we have physical books, and we're trying to figure out how to coordinate that, how to track what our students are doing, and how to make sure that the students are actually reading the books that they say they're reading through quizzes and things like that. And the mReader is one of the wonderful, amazing free resources that helps you to do exactly that. And so the tools are there to basically help you to track quizzes for almost every graded reader that's out there, and then it helps you to track and make sure how much the students are reading and how they're doing on the comprehension of those readings through the basis of the quiz. And that's another great free resource. X-Reading, Paul Goldberg, I don't know if you're in the room here somewhere, but Paul has also made another fantastic site. This is not a free site, but it's a wonderful site if your school has some kind of a small budget, because what xreading.com has done is really something I think all of us have wanted done for many, many years, and that is to take those physical graded readers, those 50 to 60 page graded readers that are sitting in our library, and figure out a way to put them into online devices so that the students can access those physical books on iPads and iPhones and Android devices, and not just the books from one publisher, but the books from all of the publishers in one place. And so he's been working very hard and been in negotiation with all of the publishers that are out in that room, and slowly pulling together in a systematic way into one single platform, a way for your students to be able to access all of the different graded readers and to track, to let them to read them, read on these kind of devices, and then to track what they're doing. It's a very, very pretty site, very well done, and another one worth taking a close look at. Joe Polshak, who is also here, has spent several years working on another wonderful site called BOasis. And what BOACES is sort of the other side of the X-reading coin. X-reading has collected all of those longer format great readers put together by publishers, which are usually 30, 40, 60 pages long, and they're wonderful. But kids who are reading online, a lot of them want to read something much shorter than 60 pages. They want something that's like 3 pages, something that they can read while they're on a train. And what BOACES has is about 1,000 short format original stories, all available for reading online. And this is one of the sites that has sort of made the jump to try and systematically not only have them do extensive reading, but also to be systematically doing high frequency vocabulary development as well. So in addition to all of the stories that they have, there's also the students can now work on the new general service list, for example, by picking a level, and then there's quizzes in 100-word blocks, and students can be systematically working on improving their knowledge of high-frequency words at the same time as doing extensive reading. English Central, this is a site that I've worked to help to develop for a couple of years. This is also a paid site. This is sort of extensive listening. This is a collection of about 10,000 short format, authentic videos. They're like YouTube length, like 2 to 3 minutes. And what I did as a corpus linguist was help them to develop a platform where you could both grade these authentic videos by level, which is the level is considered in terms of their high frequency, presence or absence of high frequency words. So all of these authentic videos are graded by difficulty, by vocabulary difficulty, but then it also goes through and teaches words using what's called a concordancing approach. I developed a video concordancing approach. So if you're watching, this is a Monty Python skit, the old argument clinic, and if you didn't know what the word argument was, you click on it, and what it will do is it instantly pulls up a series of other videos that contain argument. And so you see argument in context of other authentic videos. And like it'll pull together like 10 or 15 videos, boom, 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 boom. And you sort of just intuitively develop this knowledge of what argument means, not from a definition on a flashcard, but from many multiple meetings in different authentic contexts. So this is sort of a really fun and interesting tool that I think the pedagogy is pretty good on. Rob Waring and I, and this is one of the last sites that I'll show you, Rob Waring and I, for the past couple of years, have been working on a website called Extensive Reading Central, ER Central. And this is another free site, and what this also is a site that's trying to pull together extensive reading, extensive listening, and vocabulary learning. And what we've tried to do is to focus the vocabulary learning on the words that students think are difficult within a particular passage. So what we start out with, with extensive reading, one of the important things is to find out what your level is. So what we did is we created a very simple technique for students to self-identify what their level is, and we used the 20 levels of the ERF, the Extensive Reading Foundation scale. And what we do is for each level there's about 100-word text. So this is level 10. And down here, there's 100-word text that's written at exactly level 10. Only level 10 words or below. And so if the students read this and they can understand all but one word and they can read it without a dictionary, they click on it and say, okay, yes, that's my level. And it'll go, okay, my current level is level 10, and automatically it will start feeding to them level 10 stories. So it's a self-selected system, but it's based on the 95 to 98% principle. It's not a real test, it's just a self-test. And if the students can't read this, they just scroll over to an easier level and an easier level, and they just scroll over until they find the right level, and they choose their level, and once they've chosen their level, then they'll automatically have a large collection. I think we have about 1,000 stories right now. And they'll have a large collection of stories at their level on different topics. One of the important tenets of extensive reading is that students choose topics that are interesting to them. So we've tried to pull a wide range of ideas together, and once you've selected, I think I selected the one called The Benefits of Chocolate. I love chocolate, and I think that was one of the ones that I wrote actually. But you see a little bit of information. If you click on the story, you see how many words, what the level is. You click read the text, and there's a little place for you to start reading. And if you click on any word that you don't know, say you didn't know the word chocolate, of course, like many other sites, you'll get a definition in easy English for the word chocolate. But we've also added this green button here, which says click and